Do you want to get your business seen on the big screen? Have more eyes see who you are? Is your budget holding you back, keeping you from advertising your business? Maybe it's time you contacted Crossroads TV. Inexpensive 10-day campaign, pinpoint accuracy for demographics and geography, and the ability to select some or all of their partnered streaming services. Call us, 207-453-9895.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Hope you all enjoyed the beautiful sunshine today. Just a quick reminder to please silence your cell phones. Quick housekeeping on the agenda. We're going to change there's 2 7th orders of business, so the second one will become the 8th order of business. It'll be the discussion items. Okay. Public announcements. Details may be found at www.fairfieldme.com. On June 3rd, 2025, the Registrar of Voters will hold extended hours at the town office for the purposes of registering to vote or absentee voting only. The state primary and MSAD number 49 school board and budget validation referendum elections will be held at the community center on June 10th, 2025. Polls are open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Absentee ballots are available through June 5th. Lawrence Public Library comprehensive program details are available online and via Lawrence Public Library's social media. Second order of business, public hearings. We have none. Third order of business, public comments. Members of the public may speak to the council or request an opportunity to speak on a specific item that is on the agenda, or email comments for council to info@fairfield-me.gov by 4 p.m. day of the meeting. Submitted content may be read aloud at this time. Do we have anybody that would like to reserve time or any public comments?
I would like to reserve time, or I was going to say, now, I just have an interest in the Heyday Committee. If you still are looking for people to form this committee, and I want to learn more about the PFAS Environmental Committee, see if I feel that I'm qualified to sit on. I have enough background knowledge. And those are the only 2 I like to speak on.
So that under the 7th order of business, you want to speak on the PFAS?
Yes, please.
Okay. Any other public comments at this time? Seeing none, we'll move on to the 4th order of business, reports from staff and committees. Town manager report.
All right, so on May 15th and 16th, I did have 2 vacation days. May 20th, I attended the KVCOG Board of Directors meeting. Our discussions continue with the annual budget. May 21st, I attended MMA's Property and Casualty Pool Board of Directors meeting. Great updates on how our insurance is working for our municipalities, as well as some member added value services that they're working on, some reporting pieces that they'll have that we will be able to use as a municipality. And then also, part of our discussion, it did remind me that to let people know that they can access Gather Guard, which is a general liability insurance for when they rent our community center for events, so to help them with their liability should anything happen during their event. Also on the 21st, flower planting was done in the boxes between Sunny's and Beatty's, as well as cleanup of the flower beds in Monument Park, so those are all looking good. May 28th, this morning, I attended the Central Maine Growth Council Board of Directors meeting. Discussion and approval of their annual budget was the biggest part of today's conversation. And I just wanted to note for the council that if you're not aware, most of our partnering organizations, such as KBCOG and the Growth Council, receive much of their operational income through federal grant assistance. And during the current state of federal and state grant programs is questionable at best in some of these organizations, and they are quite uneasy about what their future services may be to municipalities as they go forward. This year, both organizations had reserve funds so that they did not plan or need at this point to extremely alter the cost to municipalities for those services, but it is something we need to keep in mind as we look at those going into the next year. And we'll be aware of them. Where I sit on those board of directors and those executive boards, I'll be aware of those as budget season comes, but it is something that we're steadily watching because a lot of them are USDA grants, CDBG grants, Brownfields grants, EDA grants, and they're all things that are just completely changing at the federal level. So just things to keep in mind. And then also, as not necessarily part of your council packet, but you did receive tonight a copy of a letter from Senator Angus King in response to the letter that the council sent concerning property taxes, proposed taxes on municipal bonds, and that he did share the council's thoughts. So I did think that he is the only one that we heard from those that we sent it to at this point. So I just want to make sure you received a copy of that. And that's it for me.
Thank you. Councilor Thibodeau, let's go.
Okay.
Economic Development.
On May 20th, we had our second informational session. It took place with a 5-member panel discussion on emergency management from the state, county, and local levels. Members of the panel stressed the importance of community involvement, both individual citizens and businesses, for helping with disasters and/or emergency events. Proper communications and being aware of emergency management responsibilities was also discussed. The next informational session will take place in September. It will focus on Community Emergency Response Training, or CERT. This will be a joint effort between the state, county, and our municipality to provide awareness through training of what to do in a disaster or emergency for the town, region, and county. More information will be forthcoming. The next meeting of the Economic Committee is going to be on June 3rd at 3:30 in Council Chambers. On the agenda, there will be a discussion of the downtown survey results, overview of the major elements and milestones as we get ready to compose the first draft of the downtown plan, and initial discussion of the town farm property if everybody is present. There will be no meeting of the Economic Committee in July due to the holiday.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilor Thibodeau?
I did think the resiliency meeting was actually really beneficial, looking at the communication platforms that are available. And I think one of the things, looking at our new website, that we'll be able to push out some of the communications, that I think that'll be helpful. I also found it very interesting to talk about the connections to business, and I think that's something that we'd like to work more on.
Right.
And I think that was actually a really good part of that process. So it was worth attending. So thanks for organizing it.
Thank you. And it's not on not on Crossroads TV. We had an issue where we couldn't get in access to it, so unfortunately it wasn't broadcast on Crossroads. But hopefully the next one in September will be.
So, and you said there was roughly a dozen people in attendance.
Yeah.
Extremely informative. Thank
Yeah.
you once again.
You're welcome.
Building Committee. Lawrence.
The building committee is going to meet next Tuesday, June 3rd at 6 o'clock. That's our organizational meeting. And that's it.
Councilor Townsend, PFAs, environmental, we're going to get into.
We're getting into, we're in hiatus right at the moment.
So we'll talk about that later. I think we all got a report on the planning board meeting in minutes. So you should have that in your packet. Any other committee reports? Okay, seeing none. Fifth order of business, consent agenda. These items are considered routine or standard business and therefore will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests prior to consideration of this portion of the agenda, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered next on the agenda. Item 25-49, ordered that the Fairfield Town Council hereby waives the reading of and accepts the minutes for meeting number 2025-09 held on May 14, 2025. Item 25-50, ordered that the Town Council hereby approves the Treasurer's Warrant number 126, General Fund in the amount of $155,670.49, including but not limited to MMEHT, motor vehicle fees, Holes and Summit Natural Gas.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Council Lawrence, second by Council Townsend. Any questions? Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Sixth order of business, old council business, discuss heyday progress. Again, we have not met for heydays. Probably going to push that off until the 250th. We'll get
We
planning
just remove it off.
over the winter.
Yeah, I think it should be removed as well.
Okay. Item 2, discuss PFAS/Environmental Committee to be discussed under the 7th order of business, so we'll push that off to the 7th order. Website, the new website is in development. The old existing website is no longer being updated. Website migration information can be found under public notices.
Do you have an idea of when that process might be done? I mean, I know it's a lot to do, but
So it's looking really good. I think they're hoping to schedule staff training within the next 2 months. And then we'll have more pieces that we have to add. And you had asked about a chat box, I believe, at the last meeting, and the town clerk was following up with one of her, she had that as a note for one of her meetings, because while she's on leave, she is still actually actively working with them on the website. So that has not stopped or stalled simply because she's not here.
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So if somebody needs a file or something that's not updated and Brittany's on maternity leave, just go to the town office if they need something?
Yeah, or just call us or come in. Yeah,
Okay.
and anybody can, we have staff that are available to complete those tasks. Yep.
Okay, Fairfield Benton Fire Agreement. Town Manager and Fire Chief tentative scheduled to meet with the Benton Board of Selectmen in June. Michelle, you have a tentative date, right? Like
Yes,
the 9th?
that has
or-
been solidified for June 9th.
Okay.
Nice.
Community Center Grant. A local electrician has volunteered to install new wiring for the stove for just the cost, materials, and permits. That's good
Who
news.
was that? I think that's probably worthy of calling out.
Yeah, my concern is who?
So it was Jonathan Thibodeau.
Okay, conflict of interest.
How is that a conflict of
Yes.
interest?
Council.
He didn't get paid.
You get paid.
He was on my assessment committee. He knew about this situation, and we discussed it during the assessment.
He didn't get
Get
paid.
paid.
He did not get paid.
I'm just concerned, too.
Right.
You did it already, or?
Yeah, it was done today.
I think you should have went to bid. You just wasted other contractors out there who might have wanted to do it.
So we had a contractor that does our electrical work for us. We had talked to them since the time that we actually, before we received the stove, to get on his list of work. We spoke to him prior to giving it to the individual that volunteered, and he was absolutely fine with us giving it to somebody else because of the time frame that they did not have to put into that work. They were fine with that. So we paid cost of materials, and the cost of the permit, and the fees for the electrician and his journeyman were at no cost to the municipality.
So I'd like to thank Jeff Thibodeau.
John.
John, sorry,
Yep.
for donating his services.
Thank you.
Stabilization of the Fire Department, Police Department, RFPs will be discussed under the 7th order of business. Administrative fee schedule, data collection is still in progress. Seventh order of business, to take action on the following items of business. Item 25-51, order that the town council hereby amends the town council administrative policy, Article 1, Section 106, to include the environmental committee. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Council Thibodeau, second by Council Townsend. Discussion.
I think it's pretty straightforward to most of our other committees for kind of breaking down the demographics. No more than 2 council members, 5 non-council members, 3-year staggering terms, so there's not an annual turnover. So that way we have the ability to have some consistency on the committee moving forward. So those things are pretty straightforward, and so I think this is good. We talked about the mission beforehand. That I think fits all the needs for us, so I'm satisfied with that. I don't know, Kevin, you were on.
I have a
that with me.
couple questions on it, though. I would recommend that we change the word will. I know it's semantics, but will to shall, like the committee will. There's a lot of wills in there. Just my take on it. And then on number 4,
On the mission or the demographics?
under the demographics, ideal member qualifications are, and I think it falls into the gentleman's question, are Fairfield residents with strengths in but not limited to toxicology. The list goes on. I think we should consider if they're also affected by PFAS, because they have, they have some teeth in that fight. Then kind of similar to me. I wouldn't have fallen into any of this stuff, but I was affected by PFAS, and I think they bring something to the table.
Sure. I think that's a valid addition.
But it also says, but not limited to.
Right.
So, yeah.
But if we pop that in there, then somebody will see that, and then they'll know that there's not, that's one of those not limited to.
Just a discussion item. If the not limited to, I know that we can talk about it, but.
Yeah, but that's actually nice to have that kind of not limited to called out. That's one of those things that'd probably be a big item. I put that in my own, application, is the fact that I am in an area that's affected, and that my job was working with people who were affected by it in the agricultural field. So I think that's a valid addition.
Do you, I was just thinking should be.
Just saying that, so I took this exactly from the form that that you discussed at your last meeting. Those qualifications, I think, were exactly the same qualifications that were listed in the original PFAS committee, but we could easily add ideal member qualifications are Fairfield residents who may or may not be affected by PFAS, and with strengths in but not limited to. I mean, how do you want to? Because what you don't want to say is strength in being affected by PFAS.
No,
Right. So
I just bringing it up as an item of discussion that, and like Councilor Thibodeau said, it says but not limited to. I just want to make sure that the not limited to can pretty much mean any resident of Fairfield.
Correct.
Really can.
And that's why that is in there, so that we didn't limit anyone. But that way, those topics allow people to understand the kinds of things that the committee would be discussing. And we've had people before who've joined committees and said, this is not what I thought it was going to be.
Right.
And it is an environmental committee, not just PFAS,
Right.
so I kind of like the wording as is.
And then on number 5,
May.
the committee should, I would change that to shall, because should is just a recommend, meet as needed to address the needs of the mission. I just wrote this down there for the discussion. I would think about adding something to the nature of, to ensure information and updates are provided to council in a timely manner. Because as needed, we just want to make sure that information that the committee gives is provided to us in a timely manner.
And that is mentioned in
In
the top at number 4. Do you want to also under
Where?
the committee's mission?
Commission.
Yeah, it's really mentioned more under the mission.
Yeah.
And the
that we
demographics
will-
are
the
more about
committee.
how the demographics are more about the mechanics of the committee.
Yeah. But the committee will report to the council with updates.
And I had two other questions I had already talked to Michelle this week about it. And they were, will they be televised? Since it's a standing committee, will it be televised or recorded? And I already got that answer. And does the admin policy dictate standing committees be recorded? And it doesn't. I got that, so. That's all I have for that.
So grammatically, just on demographics, number 5, you'd like to see the committee shall instead of should?
I think so.
I mean, that's an easy fix. We don't have to table to put on the next
No, it's just
meeting.
grammatics.
Yeah. Is that the only
No,
thing you'd like
no.
clarified?
And number 5, under the committee's mission, the committee shall host, not will, but shall.
Okay.
What are your
So
feelings?
both number 5s,
Yep.
the mission and demographics, we will change from will to shall and should to shall.
Yeah. Yeah, and then if you, number 3, under committee demographics, that's the initial term appointments, shall be for 3 years
Instead of will be.
instead of will be.
Okay.
And number 2, the committee shall include.
Okay.
There were 2 shalls in number 3.
Yeah,
Oh,
Well, 2 wills in number 3.
2 wills.
and I missed one. Under committee demographics, my paper says no more than 2 councils, 2 council members.
2 counselors.
So instead of councils, counselors.
Counselors.
So just for clarification, that will mean up to 7 on this committee, right?
Right, correct.
Okay, perfect.
Your policy already says no more than 2 counselors can serve on any standing committee anyway. It just saw fit to reiterate it. Evidently not spell it correctly, but reiterate it.
Okay, minor revisions, I think.
Yep, those are
That can be
easy.
taken care of. We did have somebody want to reserve time under this. Do you have any questions still?
No comment or anything, just the committee, are you still taking applications to be
Yes.
committee?
Yes.
And,
So we would,
yeah, I could stop by the town office and the paper and fill it out.
Yep,
for you.
and it's available online too, if you need to.
Okay. I'm going to put out my interest, let
Yeah.
you be aware of it.
And I think we have that good discussion about, some of the strengths, but again, not limited to. So if you have interest
That's
in
sort
it,
of what perked my ears up.
yeah, so I think that's important. So the more the merrier.
So what this is doing right now is this is changing our administrative policy to make this a standing committee. Where PFAS before was not in the policy. This is going to be environmental committee on a standing committee that will meet no different than budget committee and planning board and so on, just for clarification.
Yep.
Michelle?
And just so that if folks at home didn't hear what the question from the audience was, is the application timeframe still available? And it is. It has been posted on our Facebook page. The deadline for applications is June 19th, 2025. This is set up based upon your discussion at your last meeting so that you will be able to appoint at your last meeting in June.
Okay.
Will you be open June 19th? It's June 2. Most state offices are.
We don't have a meeting that night. That's just the deadline for the
It's just the
application.
deadline. So a lot of folks have emailed,
Oh, you
mailed.
just email it?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just
that kind
know
of
if
stuff.
anybody would be at the town
Dropbox,
office.
anything. There'll be nobody at the town office on the 19th. It is a holiday.
Okay.
But it would be, they could just, people
the
usually
week.
email them,
Okay.
that sort of stuff.
Thank you, I just wanted to verify
Yeah.
that.
Thursday.
Any more discussion on this action item? Okay, we have a motion and a second. We've got minor corrections in the wording without any objections. All those in favor? Unanimous. Item 25-52, order that the town council hereby considers and approves the request for proposal for the Fairfield Center Fire Station located at 15 Lawrence Avenue.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Lawrence, seconded by Councilor Thibodeau. Any discussion?
I would like to have this sent out to TC Hafford and Groundworks, and I can't think of any other company.
So if this stabilization is approved, will they fix the Maya issues too? Because I know they're going to try to fix the stabilization of the foundation underneath. But also too, there's issues with the building. Are they going to fix the structure too, or just to stabilize the foundation?
So it says to correct and stabilize settling issues at the Fairfield Fire Station as described in the Summit Geoengineering Services July 3rd, 2024 field report, so that the facility is MUBEC compliant, which is the main universal building and electrical code. Do you want to include also interior repairs as needed? All interior repairs as needed?
Because the stabilization, you're fixing the foundation, the groundwork and foundation. If they'll be able to fix it, that means then we got the structural damage too.
Right, but so the structural damage would have to, if there's structural damage that's there because of the settling, they would have to repair that in order to make it MUBEC compliant. To say all other issues, you're creating a scope of work such that nobody's going to bid on
I'm just
the
asking the
project.
question, that's it.
Yeah, no, if it was me, I wouldn't do that, but
Okay.
it's the council's bid, so.
I thought I just asked that.
To me, it would seem like that we want to start by stabilizing, and then we can make repairs based on that. And we still have to find out what that cost for stabilization is. So I think try to keep it focused would be my first goal.
Okay.
Would be better as a separate RFP as far as repairs go, I believe. Interior, anyway.
So the purpose that we discussed of doing this was get a cost estimate of what it would cost to stabilize it per that report. Then comes repair. That way we can make a decision. If it doesn't make sense to repair it, or if it's just a Band-Aid, we can provide that information to the building committee to say, okay, here's how much it's going to cost. Compare it to building new, whatever the case, at least we have done our homework. So I was under the impression we're just trying to find out how much it would cost to stabilize the building.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
And they're going to present that, and then we can decide if that is good for us and what that scope of work is and how long it will last, and if is it a Band-Aid or is it a 50-year, improvement, or what it is.
Right. Council Lawrence already has a detailed report on the buildings prior to this, so the building committee is going to meet soon. That might be a better topic to report on the needed repairs, and maybe a separate RFP.
Okay. How about I just ask the question?
No, it's a good question. Did everybody agree?
Yep.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Item 25-53, order that the town council hereby considers and approves and requests for proposal for the Fairfield Center Fire Station located at 456 Center Road. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilor Lawrence, second by Councilor Townsend. Any discussion?
It says fire department on the form.
Yeah. It's on the back. It's underneath Kevin. I just found it's a little smaller one.
Yeah, this one.
It's on the back side. It wasn't on top.
So I went and read through this entire report and made a bunch of notes. I know we're here just to discuss going forward with the RFP, and I'm good with that, but I think moving forward, based off everything I read, it's on my opinion, we're wasting our time getting an RFP on it based off of what this report says.
I think you're looking at the police
That's-
department report, and we're actually on the center fire station. Your packet's probably out of order.
That's what we're talking about, is the police station.
No. No, we're on the
Center
fire,
fire station.
we're on the fire station.
Fire center.
That's our sequence there, Kevin.
We just did the fire department on Lawrence Ave. This one is for Fairfield Center Fire Station.
Oh, all right.
So we got 3 different
The center
RFPs.
station packet's behind the police department packet.
Can be
Sorry.
confusing.
All right, I was out of order.
I just, we all were, because I just realized it when I flipped through my packet too, so, wrong order.
Yeah. And so basically, this RFP is just for how much it would cost to repair the things that are,
So after your last meeting, Chief Leary went through and did a walkthrough of the building, and this is the list that he came up with.
that's the list.
Okay.
I would add foundation. I didn't see where chief, I'm assuming that it's okay, but we know what that means.
We know it had broken pipe, so I agree. Foundation definitely needs to be assessed.
And the broken pipes were because of lack of heat.
But it could affect the ground underneath it, the
Isn't it on a
foundation.
slab?
It is on a slab.
So I would recommend adding anything for any foundation cracks, or adding the foundation to the scope of work if it is cracked, or have them look at it. It's all fine and dandy to do all this, but going right back to these other 2 buildings, we're having issues with foundations. Would be remiss not to have
Correct,
a
yeah.
look at it.
So how do we want to word the amendment? I think we can add it to the bottom of this rather than, again, table it. I think we could add it and change it and vote on it. So do you want to just simply state inspection of foundation slab?
And repair, go ahead, and repair as needed.
For repair.
So you could do concrete slab should be inspected, and list of repairs as needed.
I like that.
Yep.
So concrete slab should be inspected. And list of repairs if needed.
Detail list of repairs as needed. I didn't realize that wasn't in there. Good catch.
Okay, any other questions or discussion on the center station? Seeing none, with that amendment, all those in favor? Unanimous. Item 25-54, order that the town, did I skip one? No. Order that the town council hereby considers and approves the request for proposal for the Fairfield Police Station located at 1 Police Plaza.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Lawrence, second by Councilor Thibodeau, Councilor Townsend.
Okay.
Yes, please.
My biggest concern here is similar to what Kevin has alluded to, is that this could be a waste of services. For me, it would be, I've always wondered, can they jack the building up and dig out the foundation and put a new foundation in there? And we'd have the same basic footprint of that building. Or has the building deteriorated so much that it's no longer feasible?
You might need new, if they dig it up and jack it, they might need new dirt and soil, because since that soil is eroded too, you might need the whole thing, then foundation. So you might need a complete overhaul of the, clearing out the foundation.
So I wonder how
Underneath.
much something like that would cost. In my mind's eye, and I'm not very mechanical, they're going to have to, if something like that, they'd have to jack up the building, possibly move it to get an excavator in there to clear out the hole, and then put in a new foundation and rest the building on it. That's what my mind is telling
So
me.
there are certain injection procedures that you can actually inject materials under and lift. So they're thinking, but I don't even know what those cost. That's what we'll hopefully we'll find out. So.
Is that what we want to
They can leave the
do?
building as is, but they can jack it up stabilize the building, then dig underneath. But all determines too, will the stabilization of the jacks they're using hold?
Right.
All determines the condition of the earth.
So their recommendation in the geotechnical report was to drill down to bedrock, which is anywhere from 7 to 18 feet, and put stanchions in there. But the thing that scared me was when they pulled the core samples out of there, they were getting groundwater, and I went through and I mapped it based off of what their core samples were. They were getting groundwater at 7 feet, 8 feet, 9 feet, and then when they pulled the core sample out, they were getting odor from when they cut through all the logs, and there's a bunch of wood and logs, so it's all decaying.
Right.
And it's only going to get worse, and they even said that they can't guarantee in the future, even if it's only settled 2 inches since the last report, since the Big Apple repair. We know they've been compacting, who knows what it's at now, and you got the geotechnical company saying that they can't guarantee that it's never going to stop settling. So
I think we have our opinions. I guess wait to see what the RFP, if we have any bidders, and see what they come back with,
Yeah,
and see what
because,
their proposal would be. But yeah, I think there's a lot to be looked at.
Because what I got received from residents saying, just do it to see, is just a speculation, just a speculative mind saying, yes, you can fix the building, but they're saying that we need that, we're assuring that it can't be fixed. So there's a lot of speculations out there.
the way I read this report is it's unfixable from my standpoint, because they can't guarantee their work. Even if they go down the bedrock and put stanchions in it, they still can't guarantee it. So do we spend $250,000, $250,000 to stabilize this and it lasts for 2 years? I'm not against the RFP,
Right.
but
So I think, I think it's cart before the horse. I think you get the RFP, see what it is, and see what they recommend, and see if we're comfortable with that. I think a lot of us share your same concerns.
And I understand that. I just want to say that I think the data's here that
We're wasting our time.
we're wasting our time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of
Michelle,
doubts.
did you have anything to add? Go ahead.
I just wanted to let you know that we have recently requested another inspection by Dirigo Engineering. We actually haven't had one done since 2022 for one reason or another, but we were contacted by our insurance company to see where the building is at. So that is on their list of things to do for this summer. They typically try to do it in the fall. I think that's the reason why they were so busy last fall, because they like to try to do it at the same time of year, so that same kind of ground conditions. But it is on their list for them to take a look at as soon as they possibly can, just to double check their survey points.
Councilor Thibodeau?
My thoughts are, first of all, what is going to be the best use of taxpayer money for something like this? And the building committee will have its first organizational meeting on June 3rd.
Next Tuesday, yeah.
Next Tuesday. In the meantime, if we put out this RFP, it needs to be in
By the first.
by the 1st, with bids to be awarded by July 9th. That doesn't mean that there will be a bid awarded, correct?
That is correct.
Right.
There's
But-
a stipulation in here that says the council has the right to reject any and all bids.
Right, and so I don't think that we should be spending a whole lot of money on the police department, because if it doesn't hold up, like Kevin was saying, then we've wasted a lot of money in that process.
Correct.
But, maybe in the meantime, we go ahead with the RFP, see if people think it is repairable. It's still a town-owned property. What are we going to do with it if we have a new police station built somewhere?
So the only
Sell it as
caveat
is?
in the discussion that I've heard so far that intrigued me was as we discussed jacking it and possibly moving it. That's what I'd like to see in the RFP, not necessarily, the land's probably not usable. I think we know that. is the building functional enough to be jacked and moved? I mean, we had a couple contractors in Fairfield that do moving.
But then then the council, when I was sitting on the other side of the room, was saying, you know, that we're outgrowing the police department.
Okay.
So then we're gonna pay to, I get what you're saying. I'm all about for saving money, but sometimes we gotta bite the bullet on that a little bit.
My question too, if you want to put in this RFP, their educated thought, can that building be actually jacked up and moved?
You know what?
Can that be jacked up and moved? We need that. Do you need that in this RFP to say, okay, it's not feasible to approve it?
I read this report as though I was going to submit an RFP, and I just want to read something for the people at home that may not have understood this. And this was the one thing that really caught my attention out of this whole report. Potential cause for the additional settlement beyond our predicted range is likely attributed to secondary compression or creep of the wood layer encountered at borings B1, B2. The wood layer ranges in thickness from 1 to 3 feet. And then it goes on and says, the increase is observed settlement north to south. Estimating the magnitude of duration of settlement caused by decay and creep of the wood layer is difficult to predict with accuracy. So you have the report saying that you can't even predict it with accuracy. So if I'm going to submit a RFP, what am I? This is the information I have. What am I submitting? What am I going to propose?
Right.
What am I going to do?
Or we could just wait, saying if there is a feasible request out there saying someone can do it, or if it's not, that would be proper.
We're not going to get any proposals if they can't do it.
No proposals, but that'd be also actually big record saying, okay, the building's not worth it.
Right.
We just need that information there stating, and to the residents is saying, yeah, it is fixable, just saying it's not. We just need that extra worded.
And I think we've had enough people show interest and discussions about safety of the officers and employees that use that building. So I think it's important that we look at options, because who knows how long it'll take before we build a new public safety building, if that's what we end up doing. So I think at least we have to look at all options, right? So an RFP doesn't mean we'll have to then spend the money. It means how much will it cost, how long will it last, and do we have something viable as an option? And my personal feeling is it'll be probably a no, but I'm not an expert, so we'll find out. I mean, that's my opinion. Let somebody tell us, and then we can just sift through it.
It might be just also extra evidence that we might need for the building committee from that assessment we had to saying, okay, it's not worth it.
Yep.
Then we can go get that grant.
Yep.
So maybe extra information.
Are we okay to leave it as it is for now? I think, again, some of the building committee can address some of those other questions. I really don't believe we're going to get an RFP on this.
No.
But I don't think it hurts to send it out. We said we would request it, see if we could stabilize it, and we'll get our answer by the middle of July.
So on that note, I know the building committee is going to be meeting, but some things that I was thinking about in reading this, and I know we're talking about the RFP, but I think this kind of segues into it a little bit. The plan for continued operation during the construction and the repair. I don't know if that goes in the RFP, not necessarily that, but is our police department going to have to vacate that building while we're doing repair? We have evidence, we have whatever the case may be. I talked to Michelle about that a little bit, but that's a question. Will the community center be, if the police department moves in here, is the community center completely off use for public use? This is the police department now, that's something, and then with that comes lost revenue, you know. There's a cost associated with even the repair, not necessarily the repair of the building, I guess is my point. So
It's a lot of what ifs. It's a lot of what ifs.
What's that?
It's a lot of what ifs.
Yeah, but that's our job, is to
Yeah.
ask those questions. and be
No,
prepared for it.
absolutely, but I think that answer comes when we don't get the RFP, or if we do get one.
Well, I'm just bringing it up, Tim, because the building committee's meeting before July 9th, when we
That's
get...
just an organizational meeting, that's it. If we're not going to discuss anything about buildings, this is an organizational meeting, just introduce ourselves and,
I understand, Peter, but you guys are meeting once a month, right? So the first week of
we
July?
can meet after the fact, after the 9th. If it's due by the 1st, the 9th, the council makes the decision. The building committee can meet after the fact.
Well, I'm bringing it up with the assumption that you guys will meet twice before we get all this information back for the
Oh,
RFP.
that's-
So that, and these would be my concerns, the questions that I would ask during those discussions. That's the only thing I'm bringing up.
Yeah, no,
Valid?
totally valid point. So do we want to continue with the RFP, or do you want to just table the police station for now?
As much as I'm against it, and I think it's a waste of time, I think we owe it to our residents to find out, kind of like what Councilor Townsend said, what it's going to cost, so we have that background information.
Okay.
And to see if it is repairable before that.
Then we have that information to answer to our residents when we say it's unrepairable,
Right.
or we can't get people to fix it. We have that information.
Right. And I think it helped the building committee
Right, yep.
as well.
Okay. Any other discussion? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Eighth order of business, council workshop and other business. Item 1, discuss Crossroad TV 25-26 budget. Michelle, anything you want to bring up on? Nothing glaring that I see. So.
No, but one of the things, for those that were returning counselors from last year or were listening to our discussion last year regarding this budget, we are forever watching the amount of money that we receive in franchise fees. So if you currently have a cable contract with Spectrum and you have cable television through Spectrum, you pay what is called a franchise fee. It's listed on your bill. Those fees in turn are sent to the municipality, and that's how the television station pays its bills. However, if you have those same exact lines into your home and have a contract with Spectrum for just internet and not cable television, you do not pay a franchise fee. So as the world is switching to online services for television, we are losing franchise fees at a pretty good rate. In fact, over $20,000 in the last 3 years. So we're constantly looking for ways in which this organization can still generate money for the services that it provides. Because Crossroads TV is an enterprise fund. It is expected to fund itself through its fees that it collects. It is not paid for at all through taxation. So just keep that in mind. There's nothing here glaring that's made us think, oh goodness, the station's going to shut down tomorrow. But we are continuing to watch that revenue stream drop. We did do a price adjustment a couple of years ago on our municipal taping services. The station director, Chad, and I have already discussed that we are going to be discussing that towards end of summer, beginning of fall, as to what a cost increase could potentially look like, and that way our partnering municipalities are aware as they calculate their budget for next year. So that, and then we are also looking at doing lots of things such as advertising, other events. We do the chamber breakfast, we do events for Thomas and Colby and all of that, so those are good things. But other than that, in here, pretty much things are standard. There were some move arounds of some pieces. Again, this department is always evolving where we need things in other places, such as subscriptions. You'll notice we didn't have money in subscriptions before, but with our Zoom subscription, Insta TV, New Blue, and Vimeo, those things are in there. But what we did is we pulled from computer software, we pulled some from someplace else too. No, I think it was just there, but, and just moved some things around.
Yeah. Michelle, what's the justification for paying the part-time staff $25 an hour?
Because the fact that we can not get anybody at $25 an hour, it's left the same as what it was. To get someone to come and work for us, and usually, even though we've tried for internships through Thomas, through Colby, through the tech center, we can't fill that. We've tried
Even at
to fill that slot.
$25?
And as we try to get more active at different things, we need to. So, like the issue with the meeting that the Economic Community Development Committee did for that emergency management piece, that was wonderful pieces of information, but it was a conflict with the station with another municipality, and that took precedence because it was also previously scheduled and had been in the loop for a long time. We did not have staff that was here able to run the television system. Now, granted, we did set it up so that we were going to make allowances and some updates. We didn't have a key to the room to turn it on, but that's neither here nor there. That was my own key defects, but the goal is that we would we had a full-time position in there at one point in
Right.
time, and we did have an individual that worked for us for a very long time. They ended up having, life changes and left, but it is something that we would ultimately like to have and put in there.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yep.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions. You have a 7% pay raise for him. When was the last raise that he got?
Last year?
Last year?
Yep.
And I personally don't have a issue with the 7% pay raise, primarily because he does not take retirement or insurance, which, looking at the numbers, that saves us $11,400 plus dollars, so that kind of pays for itself. Other question I have was $500 for vehicle who maintains the vehicle? What's that for? Or is that just general?
Because it's a brand new vehicle, so really that's oil changes, if we need a new tire or what have you. Some maintenance, most of our vehicle maintenance at this point is covered under warranty, but there may be something minor that's not, that would actually be done by a contract,
My question
contract service or public works.
is, with that being said, is that $500 enough? Or if we go over that, are you able to pull somewhere else to pay for the overages, or how does that work?
So the way that would work is that, say something catastrophic happened, more than likely our insurance is going to pay for it.
Break job or whatever?
Right, but if it's something else to that degree and it's not covered underneath there, we would still charge it to that line and know that maybe we save money in equipment maintenance or those sorts of things. Worst case scenario, if it's something major, we come back and there's an undesignated fund balance for this department, and council would have the ability to pull from there if it was something major that was going to destroy the budget.
So that's the last line on the budget report?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, which basically what happens is every year, we create a budget with expenses and revenue. If we bring in more revenue than we have expenses, the difference just goes into that undesignated fund piece.
Any other questions?
No.
So this is discussion. Does this need to go to an action item for the next agenda? Or
As
can we-
long as everybody's fine with the way that it looks, then it would be put on as an action item for your next agenda.
Okay,
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm good.
we're all in agreement?
I'm good.
Agreed.
Item 2, discuss 25-26 sewer budget. Again, I'll turn it to Michelle. I don't see a lot of movement there either.
So again, this is an enterprise account. It is funded through its fees that it generates through our sewer use charges. Every year when this budget is put together, I take a look at those to make sure that we are charging at a rate that is high enough to ensure that the department is bringing in what it needs to in order to cover its expenses. We've had a lot of growth in this department in that we have worked on creating capital reserve accounts that it did not have 6 years ago, I think. They had very minimal balances. We did do a switch last year in the budget process in which the repair and the replace in the equipment reserve were changed in their amounts because we had a substantial project on Main Street, if you remember, where we had to fund all of the sewer manhole adjustments for DOT's project on Main Street, as well as we had the New Hall project. We had some sewer repairs we had to do there as well. So our current repair and replace reserve account is actually relatively low. In fact, it has a total of $3,271 in it, which gets to be quite concerning. Our equipment reserve is rather healthy at $325,930. So that's why you'll notice equipment reserve is only at the $40,000, and we kept the repair and replace reserve with the increase of 70. So to start building that account back up.
So a bond payment, is this the last year on that bond?
No.
No? No. I see it drop quite a bit from the budget.
It did drop quite a bit. I'm sorry that's not listed on here.
That was kind of my question. Why can't we just pay that off? We paid $3,000 in interest rate last year.
You can't. It's
Can't?
through the main bond bank.
I'm not smart, obviously,
Right,
on how that works.
No, it's a good question, but sometimes we have bonds, and typically bonds through the main bond bank, you're actually not allowed to pay them off early. And this one is set such that the interest decreases while the principal payment increases, and sometimes we have them where we pay the interest up front, and then but I can tell you just one second when that expires, because it's in the debt service of the town report budget. I just don't have it in front of me. Hold on.
That's okay. I mean, I can wait for
That's a good question.
next. I can follow up with you this week. It's just a question for knowledge.
No, we have one. There's actually two bonds in here. One of them expires April of 30, and one of them expires July of 32.
Okay, thank you.
The April of 30 bond has 0% interest rate. The April of 32 has a 1% interest rate.
How is 1% then $3,447 out of 42? I'm just looking at the balance of the bond is $42,000, and last year we paid
That's not the
principal.
balance, that's the payment.
Oh, okay.
The balance of our bonds is $277,826.37.
So that answers my question of why we don't pay it off.
Right. Just the payment.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And what you will see on the other side, if you look at the revenues, you'll see bond payment from GF, that means from the general fund. That's the $23,132 we just
Yep.
appropriated at town meeting from debt service that goes to the sewer bond.
Okay. yeah.
Okay, so the full amount of the bond payment's listed in the sewer budget, and then the 50% that we pay through taxation is listed as revenue.
All right.
So our revenue has dropped about 73,000 in the last 3 years, roughly 10%. Why is the revenue keep dropping?
So some of it, if you notice, lien cost reimbursement, right? So in 23, 24, we received over $23,000 in lien cost reimbursement. But as of right now, $7,536. We actually stopped filing as many sewer liens because people were paying their sewer bills.
Okay.
And then if you look at, just so you're aware, right, so it says our current revenue for sewer bills is 481,734. We still have one more billing that needs to go into that for this year. It happens in June.
Is that quarterly?
It's a
Yeah,
quarterly.
quarterly.
Yeah, there's still one more billing that needs to
Okay.
go in there.
I mean, the undesignated fund has a healthy balance.
It has a good one. Yeah, it's this, we were operating in the red for quite some time, and we've made some really good changes over the course of the last several years to help correct that. Nobody likes to increase sewer rates, but actually, the state penalizes you if you don't charge accordingly for the cost of your services. And that's what was happening here, is that we were paying out a considerable amount of money in expenses, but we were not generating the revenue through our rates to cover those. And so the council, I think, in the last 8 years has adjusted sewer rates at least twice, if not 3 times, and is constantly, we look at it every single year, so to make sure that we stay on track to make sure that continues to happen. We also weren't putting money away in a capital reserve account, and DEP, Clean Water Fund, you'll see there's a note there, requires at least 2% of your operating budget goes into that account. So when we started talking to the DEP about potential projects, or you could get penalties if we have system failures. If you're actively working to correct those systems, then your penalties aren't as great. But DEP had met with us a while back and said, you're not generating enough money to correct your system failures, and therefore your penalties would be even greater. So we've made those corrections over the years and started working that. Also, the biggest cost in this budget is our cost to KSTD. And you'll notice that actually dropped $20,000 this year. Last year, there was a substantial increase in this, mostly because of the change in how sludge was handled. When they stopped the field spreading of sludge, that generated an expense to KSTD, and because it was an immediate and emergency expense, they've now had since time to plan for that and make arrangements for that, and a better cost adjustment for that.
I had a question on wages, the 17%, one town office clerk and half of sewer mechanic. Can you, or somebody explain to me how that works, just for knowledge?
Yep, so we have one employee at the town office that is paid for through this department's budget because of the work that we do at the town office for this department. And then we have one employee at Public Works, where half his time is spent on sewer and half his time for Public Works.
Okay.
So therefore, half of the wages
So
come
that's
from
what
here.
the one employee, 1.5 family health, that's
Yep.
what that half
Yep.
means? Okay.
Yep.
Another question is, like, net profit loss, so we're at $466. But my question as I look through here, okay, what could we cut to get that so it's at a 0? And I look at the postage line 8, requesting $7,250. Of the past 3 years, we've never come anywhere close to that. My recommendation would be to change that to 5, which would then change our bottom line into the black.
Well, you have to know that you're also spending in this to come out the way that it is, $18,500 in undesignated fund.
$18,500, yeah, I got
An
that.
undesignated fund. So really, it was because I created and used a round number that you have 466.47 to the good.
So then that would still take less money out of the undesignated fund then, right?
I could just take less money. That's a $466 profit that's listed there.
He's just going to go back in the undesignated fund.
Right.
So yeah, she could change it, instead of 18,500, change it to 18,034, so it shows 0.
So it's here nor there.
Yep. It's going to go back regardless.
So and what happens is so the way undesignated fund works with this department, if we don't need it, we don't use it.
Right.
Okay, so that's why that would grow. So like if you notice, as of right now, we haven't spent anything from the undesignated fund. Because what happens is with this is you don't know from year to year exactly what your fees are going to be that you collect. It's very different than if it's taxes, because taxes are based upon value and then a mill rate, and we know what the value is when we set the commitment. With sewer, it's based upon consumption. So it's
On what?
on consumption. So it's based upon water consumption. So we have a flat rate that we start with, which is basically called your ready-to-serve fee. And it's because the system is there, the infrastructure is there, and you're tapped into that. Then there's a fee based upon how many cubic feet of water that you use. And you're allowed so much at your base fee, and then when you go over that, it's a fee for usage after that. So we never know from year to year. We can estimate based upon past practices, right, and past billing cycles, but you never know from year to year what your billing actually will be, and we won't know until it's done. You could have, we've had incidences where it's a major water leak in somebody's home. If the water went down the sewer, they have to pay for it in the sewer. If it was a major water leak at somebody's home and the water went out into the street, then we don't pay, you don't pay for that. Or maybe a new business comes in and they put in, have a much larger need. We just don't know from year to year. So like most of our budgets, it's usually, it's best guess based upon known current information as to where we think we'll be.
Any other questions? It'd be okay to add this as an action item for the next agenda?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Item 3, discuss Acme Drive with Kevin Violet. Is Mr. Violet here? Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you for seeing me tonight. I'm looking over some notes from March 9th, 2016, which is the last time I was here on this issue. And this issue involves, and I've got a map for everybody if you want to pass it around.
I think they have it.
I think it's the same.
It's an old map from 2016.
I think we
I think
have
it's the
it.
same one you have in your packet.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Same one you have. There's a letter in the back of that from the maintenance director of the SAD bus garage as well.
So
A couple things. I still store cars in that facility. My office is there where I run my real estate and construction companies, but I store a dozen cars indoors. And it's a dead-end street with no turnaround, and I asked Bruce quite a few times not to sand and salt my end of the street. I have cars showing up as late as January, and these are collector cars, sports cars. A lot of them are in excess of $100,000, and it's pretty embarrassing to unload a 60 Corvette on 1.5 inches of sand and salt in December, because the highway guy does not have the authority to not sand and salt my end of the road. Maybe you guys or someone in this room has some authority, and maybe he said it's a safety issue. He has to sand and salt my end of the road because it's so unsafe at the end of my driveway. So that's the first item, is please, yes, I get it, your plows are tearing up my lawn. Yes, I got to fix that before I can mow. But the sanding and salting on Acme Drive is excessive and unnecessary. The road is 400 feet long. You can't go fast. The end of my driveway, I'm unloading cars in sand and salt. So if someone can speak to Bruce about that, I've asked and got nowhere. Also, since this sand and salt being done is such a safety issue, the real safety issue is that the road was chopped off and there's no turnaround. Turnaround's required by ordinance. Emergency vehicles, safety vehicles, there's no turnaround. So what we have to live with over there is trailer trucks coming down our road, stopping at the end, and then backing down Acme Drive across from the Purple Cow, and then they have to back right straight out into 201. Seen them do it several times, and one time last year, I had one of my elder trailer park tenants coming in as a trailer truck's backing down Acme Drive towards Purple Cow. This poor gal freaking out, backed right into 201. Everybody stops. It's a tremendous safety issue created by the town of Fairfield. They chopped that road off. No turnaround. I'm the chairman of the planning board. I cannot accept a road, private or public, without the proper turnaround required for emergency and safety vehicles. I asked 9 years ago, 10 years ago now, if the town would consider, Stephanie was here that night, if the town would consider abandoning the road. I'll repair it, maintain it, since nothing's been done. That's easy. And I'll stop the traffic going down that road, but it would allow me to meet setbacks to put buildings up to help support the tax base. Now, when I was here 10 years ago, I wanted to spend $550,000 on a brick office building because I sold my office, and I wanted to build it like Skowhegan Savings that I built, and never got a response. Now, that would have, I know I would have had a $5,000 to $6,000 a year tax bill. I know that $5,000 to $6,000 isn't a lot on our town's budget. But if you're running the town of Fairfield, it's a big business. You have to run it like a business. And if you refuse $5,000, $6,000 a year, times 5 years, been 10 years now, 20, 30, 40 years, what you're saying is, we don't need tax base, we don't need development, we don't need jobs. And I think that's the definition, at least my job description, when I sit at this table to be the planning board chair, which is to support healthy tax base and encourage tax base and encourage people to come to this town and encourage people to build homes, put kids in our school. That is my job, and I've done it for 25 years. However, when I came to build buildings and asked to abandon the road, let me meet setbacks, never got a response. I do have the information given to me through the town manager. Municipal officers determine whose property abuts the road in question and the amount of damages that should be paid to those abutters. Damages must be paid to abutting property owners because of the reduction of their fair market value of their property as a result of the loss of municipality-maintained road. And it also goes on to say that is determined by the municipal offices. So the point is, we don't even know, no one ever did this appraisal, no one ever came back and said, holy mackerel, that's going to be real expensive to abandon this road. Nobody said so, but I'll predict the future. Yet I made money on the deal, cashing my checks for taxes, as opposed to the cost to do an appraisal and abandon that little road. I'm the only guy on the road, okay? Bus garage, if you look on your little maps, owns 30, 40 feet at the very end where the stop sign is. I've let them come through. There's a letter in the back of my package. I've let the bus garage use it. Charlie Richardson asked me 25 years ago if he could go out and use that road. I said, absolutely. That's what neighbors do for neighbors. And I let him go through there, and they're still using it. And I don't have a problem with that. But they do not have an easement. They do not have an access. They do not have a right-of-way. And on the other side of the road is Kennebec Rental with a chain link fence and a ditch line. They don't want more access. They own 900 feet on 201. So they don't want any access to this road. So again, someday, if I live long enough, I'd like to build buildings on that property, but I don't quite meet front setbacks unless I owned the road. So if someone would consider that piece to the puzzle, and encourage buildings to be built here in town, and encourage more people to come pay more taxes. That's my job on the planning board. That would be much appreciated. And again, it's what we should be doing in this town.
So,
you have to run it like a business, because it is a big business.
Kevin, is there an easement on that somewhere? It seems like we had a conversation about that before, that there was an easement.
No, if you read the
For,
letter in the back of my
utilities.
package, the school director admits that there's no easement or right-of-way for the school to get out to Acme Drive from the bus garage. I built and developed that, leased it and sold it to them a long time ago, and there was never an easement or access across there. So they are not part of the puzzle to assess the abandonment of that road.
How about utility easements? Was this?
Utility easements have to stay there. When I developed that block, I ran down to 201 and ran a private sewer line to my office. I also ran down and hooked up water lines hooking back to my office. Also took down the utility poles that crossed there to the bus garage and put poles at the end of the road, ran underground to my transformer, and then ran underground to a new transformer to the bus garage. So everything's along the railroad tracks. And again, any abandonment of a road has to respect the sewer line and the water line and the power lines, which we're all connected to anyway. So those easements have to be respected. Water District has to go up there and get at that valve.
And they're still able to do that.
Oh, absolutely. It's right
Yeah.
in the street out in front. They service it normally. And again, I ran the sewer 400 feet up the road, put new manholes in, and that's all serviceable and accessible.
I can also recall us having conversation about the getting a paper trail started from your abutters, and saying that they were okay with this. And the SAD 49 was okay. Did
Yep,
you
they-
talk with, yeah, I read it.
I
Have you
did.
talked with?
I had a letter from
Kennebec
the
Rental?
owner of Kennebec Rental. He has recently passed away. He died of old age. But the current manager, there's an assigned manager for Kennebec Rental. And again, that letter is easily achieved. They told me, please, you gotta leave the fence. We have security issues here. We want one curb cut on 201. We have cameras. They do not want a curb cut coming off Acme Drive. Again, that letter I had, and I can get one.
Yeah,
from
we would
them.
still need to have verification.
Easily done.
So I think that's one of the big things, where we actually did meet in '24. So we had, back in 26-24, we had the initial request of doing this discontinuance. So that was one thing, and we moved that on to 7/10/24. Unfortunately, you weren't at that meeting. So we went and reviewed the historical information. We talked about taxpayer funds being utilized, so you have to bear all costs, which you were willing to do, on, any kind of changes. We reviewed the road name and the railroad crossing. We talked about some of the other concerns from our Public Works Director, which he, talked about the last time. The water concerns were addressed by KWD. Mr. Violet said the town wasn't maintaining the winter conditions, rather he was, but failed to mention he specifically requested no municipal plowing, sand, or salt. Such request will not be granted going forward. Condition of the dead-end road: while there is grass growing the pavement and cracks, there are several roads with substantial traffic in worse condition requiring precedent in the regular lineup for road improvements. Brush overgrowth has been cut back and there are no ditching issues. The council consensus at that time was no action will not move forward without additional information, cost proposals, abutter information, position, and advance written requests to be placed on a future agenda to proposal consideration, which I appreciate the request, and then moving forward this way. That's how you take the steps. But there's a paper trail, and now we can hopefully, if you want to move forward, then I think having some of those things like we talked about then would be the next step.
But one of the things you stated there is incorrect. That I had requested, don't even plow the road, please don't sand it. I asked them, don't bring these big trucks up my road. I got there in a snowstorm at night, and there was a kid in the back of a wheeler shoveling sand and salt out because he was stuck in my driveway. I didn't say anything to him. I didn't say anything to Bruce. He was just doing his job. However, I had asked, please, don't put sand and salt. I get cars in and out of here during the winter. There was a wheelbarrow and two stuff, and I had to clean it up. But again, I asked you not to sand and salt my end of the road, and again, he's saying he has to sand and plow and do the end of that road. I'm asking the council to formally, please, ask him, stop pushing the button 50 feet from the end. Just don't sand and salt my driveway at the end of the road. I unload cars there, okay? The cars just left, but all winter I store heated, alarmed car storage there. Asking, please, don't sand my sand. Don't even, I'm the only one going up the road. Don't even plow it, okay? But I got to fix the sod again. That got all plowed up.
Yeah.
But again,
So
you misquoted me.
So is your request for road discontinuance?
My request is,
Okay.
A, there's a huge safety issue on my road, and nothing's been done about it for 10 years. Trucks back down that road because there's no turnaround, and it doesn't meet our ordinance for a turnaround at the end of the road. That's a non-conforming road. You shouldn't be maintaining it. Do yourself a favor, abandon it, okay, and cut the mess. That's what I'm asking.
So I think we probably would discussed that, but have we had the other things we've asked for?
What are the other things you asked?
So we had asked for, we asked for, will not move forward without additional information, cost proposals, abutter information and position. So we've had one, an advance written request to be placed on a future agenda, which you did for us for this meeting. So we're starting to move forward. So if we have some of those things, I think we can move forward. So,
Okay.
I mean,
And again, you conducted that meeting and that correspondence when I wasn't here.
So
I
did you?
wasn't here that night.
So-
I didn't know I had to be in writing to be on your agenda, so I went and put it in writing to get on your agenda this time. But that whole discussion, I was not here during that discussion. But I can gladly do anything you want, but the statute's very clear. The town has to assess, do a valuation, do an appraisal on the change of value of the abutting properties. State statute.
Right.
You have to do that, okay? Haven't done that. Do I put it, can I can I request that you do that and start the abandonment process?
That has to be done, I read that has to be done by DOT, so we'd have to schedule that through DOT.
But the assessed value, if we close a road, you're going to, I mean, we talk about land value and property taxes. You close a road, now I have no road frontage. Obviously, the land is worth, it's a back acre. It's not worth anywhere near what road frontage
But
is
we-
worth.
we still
And you're
own-
closing on both sides.
No,
So
we
you
still own-
devalue two sections of
We would
land.
still own the frontage on 201. If that abandoned road was there, there's a 50-foot frontage, probably 60 feet on the...
Kevin, there's a road that's been there for 140 years. I abandoned, I lose frontage on both sides of that road, dead end or not, it is still road frontage.
Okay.
So as far as not having a turnaround or emergency, why wouldn't we have the right to add a turnaround at the end of the road?
Why
It's a
didn't you
dead-end
add it?
road.
Why didn't you add it 10 years ago when you let the tracks chop off?
Again, I don't know. I'm just in the
Okay,
discussion.
there's no land there to add a turnaround.
So what we're looking at is the discontinuance of Acme Drive, and looking at the fact that according to, we would be doing what's called the statutory process of discontinuance. And there's 3 different forms from the state. That's the one that would apply to this situation. And because there's no presumption of abandonment, and we're not using the common law doctrine of abandonment by public non-use. So we are looking at the statutory process of discontinuance. In order for that to happen, then you're going to, again, get that paperwork in from
I will go to Kennebec.
the rental,
And talk to
Kennebec
a
rental.
live
We-
person.
We need to have that. The amount of the damages, there needs to be a survey done, because that would affect your land, wouldn't it?
The assessment.
Because, the assessment,
Yeah.
because you'd be taking over
Absolutely.
Acme,
Right.
and this is upon your request. I don't think we should be paying for that as a town.
If it's the cost of an appraisal, I would gladly pay for an appraisal.
Because it's for private use.
Right.
So if we discontinue a road, doesn't the road get split in half? Wouldn't the other half of that property go to Kennebec Rental?
Yes.
If we discontinue that, you're not going to get the whole road, Kevin.
I don't want the whole
The
road.
frontage goes to Kennebec Rental in the school that's currently there on 201.
But
It
we're-
doesn't go to the property in the back. So you have to look at the portion of the law since 2018. If it creates a landlocked piece of property and you decide as a municipality you're going to discontinue that road, they have up to a year for those properties to acquire all the easements they need from the other abutters in order to be able to access that. So discontinuing that road does not inherently give the property in the back 50 feet of road frontage. What it does is it adds to the school property and it adds to the Kennebec rental property, but not the property in the back, not
So-
Mr. Violet's property.
Because the roads.
Because of how it is, and the law's pretty specific on it. You don't have any options. You do have to do an appraisal. It has to be an appraisal. There's a recommended appraiser through DOT. It's not basically, it's not just the change in value of the land because you've taken away its road frontage. But last time I knew, it also includes the proposed cost of road maintenance for 20 years, split up amongst all of those that you are discontinuing the frontage from. So there's that piece, so you must pay for that, as well as the deed filings and all of that, plus the legal, because if you do go through this, I would definitely recommend that you get an attorney to do that.
I read damages for discontinuance are calculated pursuant to a statutory formula,
Yep.
which is that formula.
From DOT, yep.
That we, municipal officers, should obtain the services of an appraiser through the DOT Property Office Division. So that's something that we would be responsible for.
And then those appraisals are also subject to being taken to court, to a jury trial, to be argued about. Now, granted, you've only got 3 properties here, so we're not talking like, 2 miles of road. But there is a...
If it's
It's a relatively
contested,
long
right?
and specific process. That's why I wouldn't tell you if it is something you want to entertain, you do want to get an attorney for that.
But is that if it's contested? You go to court?
Right, so the abutter has the right to contest the value,
Right.
and it would go to court, and I think it says in the statute that it's a jury trial, or it's in the policy or something like that. I read that. 'Cause it
Appeal,
takes
any
up to a
person
year.
aggrieved by the decision to discontinuance may appeal to Superior Court within 30 days. Any person aggrieved by the municipality's measure of damages, or the cost, may appeal to Superior Court within 60 days
Yeah.
of the discontinuance order,
It does,
which we would have to budget for.
right. And I'm thinking also of the hazard that's currently present, Kevin. When Willow Street was closed, that was done through the state, correct?
Town.
It was the town that did it. And who would have thought that GPS would still send trucks up that road? And they are. But if it wasn't a road with no street sign, they would probably realize that. So I think that's a very good
Well,
item to
3 weeks
consider.
ago, a trailer truck backed down there. The bus garage director called me, said, "You see that truck? He's backing right into 201. Should we get down there and stop traffic for him?" And by the time we were on the phone, the guy had already backed out into 201. If he broadsided a school bus full of kids,
Yeah.
who would have been liable for that?
Yeah.
Okay, the townspeople of Fairfield. So this is a serious issue. This has been an ongoing problem. It is nice.
So you think the town would be liable because somebody backed into the road?
No,
Why would it be any
I'm not-
different if they drove into my driveway and backed into a road?
But if you created a non-conforming use, which is required by our ordinance, and there was no turnaround there that forced those trucks to back up, would the town not be considered partially liable for that? You didn't provide a turnaround and chopped the road off.
We don't make turnarounds big enough for tractor trailers.
Yeah.
Not anywhere.
No. So, but the thing is, after 10 years of hashing this out,
I drive
The
up the
cost-
roads, my lawns are all torn up from trailer trucks backing off the road. I haven't fixed them. I refuse to fix them anymore.
yeah, I think that Kevin's willing to pay surveying costs, if you can, the cost for us as a municipality, I think you should pay us back whatever it costs us, because I don't think it's right to use taxpayers' money for private gain, which is what this would be, and I'm being very point blank with that.
Yep.
I think that the road itself should be discontinued. And if the people abutting you have no problem with that, and the effect of that road closure on their property taxes, and they're good with that, I don't see why we don't do that, but that's my opinion.
I was reading the history of this, Kevin. Through the years, it stopped 10 years ago. Supposed to be an assessment done by the town assessor on this, by the state, and stopped.
Whose responsibility is that assessment according to that statute? The town of Fairfield.
Right, yeah. I
Okay.
saw that estimate
The town-
dropped 10 years ago.
That is correct.
Right.
But I've been
And this has been
here-
going on. We've been finding, it's been 10 years. We should correct this now.
Which is what I was talking about earlier. We got this point, and then it's been sitting there. We went through, we had a business meeting, and then there was nothing acted upon it. There was no follow-up from your side. And we're happy to move forward if you want to look at some of those options. So it sounds like you're looking to do that, so I think keep moving with some of the questions that we have.
I can produce letters, but again.
Right, but it's going to be more than just the letters, because then we have to do the surveying, that needs to take
Okay,
place.
there's no surveying. There's pins shown on your map I gave you. The pins are there. You
No,
don't
she
need
means
to
the
survey.
assessment.
The assessment,
The assessed
the
value
assessment.
of the loss of
An
town
appraisal-
value.
Yeah.
An appraisal of change in value is what's called for there,
Yeah.
correct? And
Yeah.
again, the town's supposed to pay for it. I will gladly pay for it. If that's the big deal here, $500-600 for an assessment. If
Well,
that's
and
the
then
big
there's the
deal.
cost. But
What's that?
also, then there's the cost of the damages that have to be paid to all the abutters.
And it says here, determined by the municipal offices. That's you guys. You could say the damage is the $2. Look at the appraisals. Look at the frontage. Look at the condition of the road, okay? Trust me, I'm not going to sue you in 60 days.
I think we would just need that data and plug it into the formula, because, I mean, the formula is going to tell us what the net cost is going to be. You know, and then we don't know what that's going to be. It could be nothing, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, if he has letters that the abutters don't have issue with it, then we're still liable by law 30 to 60 days after. If they decide, if they change their mind and go back on Kevin, we as a town are liable. So we have to know what that number is, regardless of who pays it. We have to, him and us, for both of our benefits, know
need
what
that
that number is,
yeah.
so that we can prepare for that. It might be, that number, we won't know until we do it. We see what those numbers are.
So how do we get the numbers then?
Well, according to everything I read, there's a statutory formula that we have to follow. Once we get the appraiser from the DOT to give us the appraisal, that's what they talk about, the damages. The damages, we think damage as physical damage. Damages could be monetary.
Right. So it's
for
the
loss or
DOT that
whatever.
would need to be contacted, Michelle?
So we would contact the DOT for a list of people who do these type of appraisals. They do the appraisal based upon DOT's formula and then report back to us what those appraisals for damages are.
Okay, so that would be one of the first steps then, correct?
Yes.
Then I think we should do it. Enough is enough.
How do you think I should pay for that?
Well, Kevin can pay for it once we get the bill, but how does,
I think that then Kevin needs to put that in his letter to the town requesting us to do that he will be liable for that cost.
I have no idea what that cost will be. I pay for certified appraisals all the time in my businesses, and I pay $500 to $1,000, but I'm not going to agree to an unknown cost with an unknown appraiser by DOT and agree to 10 to 20 grand. My property values will go down because I lose this frontage. Again, I'm not looking for huge reimbursement for that. I'm looking to build buildings on a road that's 400 feet long that I can't meet setbacks on from the frontage. If my half of the road is mine, I can build up to the edge of the road if I want to develop and build buildings, okay?
So you, right now, the setbacks are stopping you from building.
It stopped me 10 years ago from spending $550,000 on an office building. That would be a lot
Because of the
tax.
setbacks. So the purpose to close this road is to create enough additional land to allow you to build according to the setbacks.
Thank you.
Okay.
You stated that very simply, okay? And I thought it was simply stated 10 years ago.
But there won't be a road.
It is stated simply, Kevin. The problem that I have is what kind of loss in value to the town by closing the road, by losing, maybe not today,
Right.
20, 30 years down the road, or if you sell, there's value in road frontage. Kennebec rental has value in road frontage. I do hear you on, is there an emergency response problem? That, I think we'd have to work with Bruce and Travis and DOT to ask, can that be fixed before I'm willing to close a road? But I hear all the arguments, and I think it deserves further discussion. So just for more clarification for the people at home, the appraisal is going to determine what the land value will do. The town, when we pay our taxes and when our mill rate gets valued, our reimbursement from the state is based on assessed value. It's totally different than appraised value. Appraised value is what you're going to be able to sell it for. That's where the damages may come in by the abutters. Assessed value is the value that the town is going to either gain or lose from state valuation. So the appraisal might be fairly inexpensive to do. The damages from assessment may be totally different. But I'm absolutely willing further discussion, find an estimate on what that appraisal is going to cost, and come back and say, Kevin, are you willing to pay for this appraisal? The estimate is this amount of money. I think even going further, if it doesn't happen, and the main issue is salt and sand to protect vehicles at the end of the road, that's a discussion we have with Bruce. And
I would like to speak when we're finished,
Okay.
in my own defense.
Okay. But I've got a clear picture of what you want, what you're trying to do now.
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions for Kevin before he sits? No? All right. Bruce?
And with all due respect to Mr. Violet and anybody else here, several years ago, you requested I do not plow the road. I was fine with that. No problem at all. You don't want me to plow the road, you don't want me to sand the road, I won't do that. But then Mr. Violet came to the meeting and pretty much chucked me under that bus and said he's not maintaining the road, he's not plowing, he's not sanding. So I'm a little confused on what maybe you do want me or don't want me to do. When I took over replowing the road, we stopped sanding below his business. We did plow to the end of the road. Residual sand gets dragged up the road, school buses come up, drop slush, sand falls off. 1.5 inches may have been an exaggeration, but, you know, just a little confused on what I should do and shouldn't do. As far as the road's concerned, it can go away. You're 100% right. It is a safety issue at the end of the road, but I don't think to get what you want, you throw people under the bus. That's just my opinion.
That was your opinion, and I told you after that, Bruce, that was not my intention.
I just sat here and listened to the same thing. Conversations over as far as I'm concerned.
And the same thing stands, that the end of my road's all chewed up. There's trailer truck marks on the road. I witnessed people backing down that road. Nothing has changed. If we come to another winter and we could lighten up on the sand and salt at my end, that would be, let the council decide. He doesn't have the authority to make that simple decision. You people in this room probably do.
No, I agree, but at this point, it's a road, and it's his responsibility to take care of it. No different than any other road in the town. So Bruce is doing his job, and you're right. If it comes from our direction, now we've heard the complaint directly from you. We've got a 10-year history with some laps in here. I think we just move forward with the discussion we just had. Let's get some prices on that appraisal. Let's see what it's going to do to our assessed value, and let's get back to this as soon as we can get you those answers.
And I'll get a letter from Kennebec. Thank you very much.
All right.
So again, what is it that the council would like me to do?
I think it's contacting DOT.
All right, and see what the
Get
cost would be.
in touch with an appraiser to
Yep.
see what the cost would be and the timeline.
And then I would ask Mr. Violet. if
Don't
that's-
contract, but let's.
Right?
Please don't contract, but let's get a cost.
we-
Step
we
is to
need the
ask him
cost.
if he's willing to pay that cost. If he's not, well,
I don't think it should be the burden of the taxpayers to bear that cost.
It says right there too, taxpayers should not be responsible for it.
Right.
Individual gain.
That's what, back in July of last year, discussion.
And that's I guess my problem is that we had this discussion a year ago, and we haven't had any movement since that point until now. And that's fine.
It comes and goes.
It comes and goes. So here, if we want to follow up, there was a pathway set to how to move forward.
Right.
So here it is. Let's follow that pathway, and then we can move forward. So, and I think salt and sand is a whole different issue. I'll let
Yeah, but
Public Works
again, it's
be-
Public
I'll
Works'
have
job to salt and sand
salt
the
and sand.
roads. You don't just go to somebody and say, don't sand
And
my
the town
road.
manager will direct the director to not salt and sand a certain area, but I think they do an incredible job, and I do not like, I will back Bruce on this,
Right.
that I don't like somebody being thrown under the bus at a town meeting without any substantiation.
I've been up that road. Last time we had this discussion last year, I went for a ride to that road. Halfway up there, there's another part of the road over to the bus garage. There is a turnaround that someone can turn into the bus garage and turn around. Because I went in there. And another one. So,
I think the next step is just to make sure that we follow the process. We'll get the appraisal, or the assessor's appraisal, I guess, actually, use the correct term.
Cost of the
We
of that
An
cost.
estimated cost is what I would
Yeah.
like to ask
And then
for.
we can move forward there. And
And we can bring the right information back and see what kind of damages it may do. And that will give Kevin time to get a letter from the abutter truly stating they don't. My other fear with the school, if that is MSAD 49 property, I would like a letter from the school board, not from the transportation director, that it's okay to close this. It's not his property. It's the school's property.
And it's based upon the way the law reads, that doesn't even count. What happens is because it landlocks that piece of property, those individuals have up to a year to get the easements in place that says they have the right to transverse across there, because when you discontinue it, it absolutely has to get split down the middle. Should they choose to sell those easements and whatnot afterwards, then that's on them, which is why I'm saying you'd need an attorney to be involved with all of this.
Okay. So we may need to have a cost from Bill Lee as well. We're definitely going to need legal advice and representation.
That split down the road for the easements both sides, he has to buy both sides from each person. If I read that correctly in that one.
That's how I interpreted
Right.
it, too.
He has to, it's going to cost him a lot of money.
I do support development.
Right.
I want development.
Right.
No,
Also, too,
absolutely.
But I think we have to make sure we follow the process.
Yeah.
All right.
I think we all need to be really familiar with this legal document of, I mean, I went through and highlighted, there's a lot of stuff on here. You know, once a discontinuance is approved, the municipality is legally obligated to pay compensation. And there's no way to, there's all kinds of verbiage in there on what we're signing up for.
Well, that's why we need letters from the abutters saying that they approve this.
Yeah.
You know, they're basically going to sign their rights away.
Oh, I see. I read that too last year, Kevin. I don't think the town can afford it. Because we're going through a budget crisis right now. An added expense to actually close this road needs to go back to the taxpayers. We just can't approve that ourselves.
Right.
They have to approve that, so.
Right, it has to go to town meeting.
Correct.
No,
No?
based on, the law is written such that town meeting is a legislative body. However, you could put it to town meeting, you wouldn't have to make that decision yourself as counselors. But the way our charter is written, the only thing that goes to town meeting is your annual operating budget. So the council does have the authority to make this
So we do.
approval. It'd just be a matter of where would you take the funds from.
Well, it wouldn't be the first road that we've closed, so.
I think it's probably the first one we've closed in a really long time.
Gordon Way, I mean, that wasn't that long ago.
It's still a
It's still
town
a town
road.
road.
None of those roads were discontinued because even though those railroad tracks were closed off and those roads were now created dead ends,
Yeah.
they weren't discontinued because of the way this law works
Okay.
and because of the cost that it was going to create. There's one up there, what's the one that's off? There's one off Newhall next to the church. It's still called a helm. It's literally a driveway for somebody. It's still not discontinued. It's still considered a townway because there was no money ever put aside in that dead road ending process to fund any of these discontinuances.
Okay.
I think we got to figure out what the amount of, it ultimately comes down to the amount of
Cost.
damages.
Cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need a more concrete assessment on cost.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion on Acme Drive?
No.
Bruce, thank you for your input. Discuss other council business. We'll start with our new councilor. Councilor Kitchen, any?
I have some notes here. I'm prepared this time.
Absolutely.
First thing is, I had talked to Michelle about it, the website now getting updated. The town council goals, what's on the website is from 2023. Do we have a paper copy of this? Or do we have a copy of, or can I get a copy of what you guys discussed?
Yep.
It's not in the minutes, it's not
Yes.
laid out in the minutes.
And when we do the January 1st, the first meeting in January is a business meeting.
The organizational meeting.
And we actually take a look at those and update them as needed. So if that's what was on the website, that's outdated. We've got a new one.
We do have a new one.
Yeah.
I can get it for you, Kevin.
And then my question is, how often do we follow up on those quarterly to see where we're standing? I think it's something we should look back on periodically throughout the year.
On those goals, I'm going to stop you for a second. Honestly, coming in January for that first meeting, I wasn't prepared and ready, especially when we look at fee schedule and stuff like that. I'd rather see that moved off into July 1, or fiscal year, because that's where our goals should be as new fiscal year takes. I think it would give more time for new councilor coming in to have an input, have a say, and it should be addressed probably quarterly or biannually to see where we're standing on those
It should
goals.
be.
I mean, I was at that meeting, I felt like I was drinking through a fire hose trying to figure all this out. And then I went through the old minutes and just looked at some action items, just questions so I can get caught up. And I'm gonna go from newest, 9 April, Michelle mentioned for PFAS that somebody was working for bioremediation of PFAS on the Fairfield property. Is there anything else going on with that, or is that something we can give to the committee, or?
So,
The research.
we could potentially, this was a gentleman, he was a professor through the Rue Institute. He was doing his own research on his own thesis. I got an email from them the other day, because I also think it's through the University of Maine. I'm not sure if it's part of any of the grants that have recently been slashed or not. But what they were working on was they had a mineral rights document that the municipality needed to sign off on, so that when he took those samples, the samples actually belonged to him and his
Okay.
report. He was working on getting me that. This was like a week or so ago. He wasn't planning on doing samples until probably June. So that's still a work in progress.
PFAS, or the environmental committee.
Yep.
Bear with me, my apologies. The minutes say that the town council agreed that Industrial Road was best suited for new municipal building. Did that change? I know that we had talked about.
That was just a recommendation. It'll go to
Yeah,
the
we
building
got,
committee.
there's 2 or 3 sites out there. Well, we have to see which one that will be discussed anyways, if everything goes through, which one will be suitable. And don't
Suitable
have the
and
same
cost
issues we go through
analysis.
now.
Yeah, I think Escalon Drive and
Right.
Western Ave were another
Yeah,
site.
it just said the council concluded that the most suitable location, most suitable. Okay, again, just so I
Yep.
can. And the last one was March 18th, KB Cog, this was from the town manager report, to pilot a program to inventory property in Fairfield that is well positioned for development based on available resources. More to come in the future. Is that something that your committee deals with, or
No, no.
what does this mean?
That, for KV-COG, that, it has to do with economic development and what areas in Fairfield could be promoted for economic development. Michelle, can you add on to that?
In housing. So KV-COG received the grant. It's the Central Maine Growth Council that works with economic and community development on a monthly basis. Like they're part of that group. KV-COG actually applied for a grant for our municipality to create a pilot program for doing inventory for housing. They did recently, I believe, sign the paperwork for that grant so that it is now contractually obligated. That was another one that within the last 2 weeks was questionable as to whether or not it was going to get canceled. So that is still a work in progress, but it is not, nothing has been done on it yet, other than their paperwork.
Tim, you had mentioned earlier in the year, recommended creating an ad hoc committee for endowment of the ice rink. Is that something that we still want to consider?
We haven't even discussed anything since we've bought the land. That probably should be a discussion item for the next agenda.
It will be. So all of that has been put on hold because we purchased that land and then we were right at town meeting.
Okay.
Right, so all of that. So during the month of May and portions of June, because of all of the budget pieces that we do, that takes precedent of absolutely everything. And now that we're getting beyond all of that, that project is going to start coming to the forefront.
I can tell you, I've met with Pat Garrett from the Alphonse Center. I know him well, and I have a vast background in hockey, so had a fantastic meeting. They've got a ton of resources, so as we get to that, I'd love to see that ad hoc committee created so that we can report a lot more transparently.
All right, so once we get more into that, what she just said answers the next three questions that I had about what's going on with that, so. All right, that's all I have. Oh, and one last plug, I just for everybody, I'm very pro shop local, Fairfield. We have a lot of great businesses in Fairfield. Whenever we can, try and shop local. It helps us out in the long run.
Thank you. Councilor Thibodeau.
I'm all set.
You're good.
Thank you.
Councilor Townsend.
I think I am good at this point.
Councilor Lawrence.
Okay, this Saturday at the Grange to be their annual supper from 4:36 and $12 per meal. That is on May 31st. And that's it.
All right, for me, the only thing I want to bring up is June 10th, the state primary and MSAD 49 school budget is going to be voted on by referendum vote, much unlike town meeting where you show up and raise your hand. You get to go to the ballot box and let your voice be heard. The Fairfield portion of the school budget is up roughly $320,000. So for those concerned about their taxes,
it's doubled.
Please use your voice. It's 4 towns. Clinton and Albion also have an increase. Benton has a decrease. They are closing a couple schools already. Another one will be closed in the middle of the school year. So I would like our townspeople to know that it's going to affect your taxes, maybe $500,000. But use your voice. I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but please use your voice. I'd like to see more than 100 people show up for that referendum ballot, and as well as absentee ballot. You have till June 5th to get your vote in for that absentee ballot. So please get out and vote. That's all I have for tonight.
What I got from that meeting was it's going up 4%, but Fairfield's portion, the other town's portion's 8%, so it's double the portion that the town has to pay into, so.
Okay. So our next regular meeting of the Fairfield Town Council will be on Wednesday, June 11th, 2025, to be held as a hybrid meeting in council chambers and via Zoom at 6:30 p.m. At this time, the council will recess and sign all documents that require the signature of the council members.
Make a motion to recess.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Lawrence, second by Councilor Thibodeau to recess. Thank you, everyone.